Hey guys, Ron right here, and today I'm going to showcase my Season 1 ready penetrating shot build. It was mostly created for higher damage output, which will be pretty handy in Season 1. I'm going to showcase my abilities. This build was pretty viable for me for all the nightmare dungeons up here, 80, 90 and up to 100. So let's go look into it. So let's look at our abilities. As a basic attack we have Puncture here, together with Fundamental Puncture to apply Vulnerable. The Forceful Arrow here is a decent option, and it should be used if you feel the lack of crowd control. So that way you should take Forceful Arrow and Fundamental Forceful Arrow. It could be really helpful in higher tiers, so don't sleep on it. Here goes the Penetrating Shot, which is our main ability, and the second one is Advanced Penetrating Shot here. As a movement speed skill, I'm still using the Shadow Step, which can be really good for crowd control and stuff, together with Methodical Shadow Step, which can stun enemies. The passives here are Weapon Mastery and the Concussive, since we knock down monsters a lot. So the next ability is Dark Shroud, which we don't have on our panel, yet that's a pretty good one that we should have. Both Countering Dark Shroud for critical strike and Subverting Dark Shroud are good options. So we should take this one in case we need more damage, and we should take this one in case we need more mobility inside the dungeons. Don't forget to swap it. We are taking the Poison Trap here, mostly for crowd control, together with Enhanced Poison Trap to knock enemies down. The passives are pretty simple, it's mostly Exploit for more damage and Menace. Here we are using Poison Imbuement, which is the main source of our damage currently, together with Blended Poison Imbuement, which will multiply our damage even further. I'm also using Debilitating Toxins, which is really helpful in the higher tiers, since it can protect us for getting one shot sometimes. The Alchemical Advantage here is a pretty good option, since it gives a lot of free attack speed for only 1 point, which is pretty nice. I'm using Shadow Imbuement, which can give you a lot of additional damage as a second imbuement option, together with Mixed Shadow Imbuement, which can work in combination with Poison Imbuement. So we can use one and then use another after rises. We can also use Cold Imbuement if we still need more sources of chill and more crowd control. This is definitely a valuable option. So we can take it like this and take Blended Cold Imbuement for a lot of crowd control when we need to stop enemies from hitting us, or the Mixed Cold Imbuement if we need a little more damage here and there. That's a decent option as well. Yet for most of the dungeons, I stay with Shadow Imbuement and swap to the cold one only at the higher tiers like 90 and higher. The Precision is a pretty good passive and a valuable option as well, since it's just a free critical strike chance, and the Frigid Finesse here is a decent option as well, which synergizes pretty well with our items and our skills, especially if you are taking Cold Imbuement. The passives here are pretty easy. It's Innervation, which is good to regain the energy and make sure the Edge Master aspect is always on top, and Haste, which is mostly used for the movement speed, not the attack speed one. So you should always try to stay at high energy. Here is two decent options. We can take both Victimize or Precision. Overall, I prefer Victimize, since it can be more consistent when we are speaking about the damage here. Yet, in some situations you can try to take Precision, since it can be good option too, especially if you can time it well. If you are taking it, make sure that you always attack with your Penetrating Shot when Precision is up. So, this was mostly the part with the abilities. Let's move further to the Paragon. Alright, so let's start with the Paragon. The start is pretty much the same. We are using Combat here for the critical strike damage, which should be pretty helpful. We're going to there, taking Prime, and taking Lawless, since it's pretty much a free armor for only 2 points. So here I'm taking Exploit, which is a good source for vulnerable damage, currently the best type of damage in the game. I'm also taking Lawless, Dominant here, and the Finisher. All of them are pretty good, yet if you don't have enough points, you can get rid of the Dominant, since it's not that good. Yet if you have enough points, you should definitely take it. We are exiting through the left and moving up for this. It's the tricks of the trade, Paragon board, and the glyph here is Ranger. So that's pretty much simple. It gives us a lot of damage for marksman skills, and that's a really good option. We're also taking Havoc here and Ranger here. I also get rid of the Brawler, since it's the best idea to stay as far as possible from the enemies in higher tiers. We're exiting through the left again, and the second board is Eldritch Bounty. The glyph here is Infusion, which is a really nice one. It gives us a lot of damage since almost all of our skills imbued anyway, especially when we are using Poison Imbuement and Shadow Imbuement together. I'm also taking Potent, Dosage, a Ready Supply here, and Imbuer. The Eldritch Bounty itself is a pretty nice option since it can multiply our damage, and we should definitely take it. We are exiting up, and the next board is Exploit Weakness. Here the glyph is Bane, which is one of the main sources of our poison damage and can multiply everything we are doing and a few times. So I'm taking Artifice here, even though we don't have enough strength to have the bonus. And I'm taking Exploit, since it's a pretty good option as well, for not a lot of points. If you still will have points, you could also take those, yet it's not necessary. We're exiting to the right, and the last board is No Witnesses. Here it's pretty simple. The glyph is Tracker, which can be really nice since we are poisoning enemies for really long time. And we are taking both Ruin, Knowledge here, and the necessary intelligence nodes. So that's pretty much it. The Paragon is pretty simple, and the main idea here to get a lot of damage out of it, which can help us in higher tiers to kill monsters faster, when we will try to avoid most of the attacks. Let's move to our items. Alright, let's see our items. The main source of damage is good crossbow with Edgemaster aspect. This is a really good option, and you should always put it on the crossbow, since it's pretty much the same across almost all of range builds. We should also try to search for vulnerable damage and critical strike damage. I also have damage to poison enemies here, yet you could definitely swap it to some different options, such as critical strike damage with imbued skills. It will be even better. So moving up, we are still using Penetrated Glyphs, mostly to slow down enemies, to get the best movement speed possible and move around and dodge stuff. This is a pretty good item that could be changed, yet I still prefer it. Try it on. Moving up here, I have Warlord leg plates with an aspect of disobedience. This is a decent option, which should help us to get higher armor and avoid one-shots in some kind of scenarios. For the stats here, you should definitely aim to get as many defensive ones as possible. So total armor, damage reduction from close enemies, damage reduction from distant enemies, and the pure damage reduction all are good. And it should definitely help you. We're also using the Arabis here for maximum life. So yeah, moving up, I have a Gloves here, which has mostly critical strike chance, attack speed, penetrating shot bonuses, and critical strike damage with imbued skills, which is pretty good. As an aspect, I'm using the trick shot here to maximize my penetrating shot AoE damage. That's a pretty good option. You could move it to the ring, yet I prefer it on my gloves so it's easier to swap items. When we are moving to the body, it should be a little different. The aspect here is always the aspect of might, so it provides a lot of damage reduction. Yet the stat itself is pretty interesting. I mostly use two bodies, you can see the second one here, and I'm going to showcase both of them right now. So this one is mostly based on the defensive strategy. So it has total armor, damage reduction from close enemies, damage reduction, and damage reduction from distant enemies. And we should use this one in the most of the situations. However, for higher tiers with bad buffs, we should swap to this one instead. This is damage based body, mostly used for higher tiers of dungeons when you can't take hits anyway. So it has damage with skills that swap to new weapons, which is pretty good. Imbued skill damage, which synergize with two imbuements that we are using. Marksman skill damage, which is pure increase. And the pure damage stat. This body is a really good option if you are sure you're gonna be one-shotted anyway. So don't be afraid to swap items like this, since it can give you best results. Yet anyway, in normal dungeons, I'm sure that we should use this kind of chest, which should help us a lot. We are going to the helmet, and I'm still using the aspect of the protector here. A lot of different options, such an aspect of the cheat and stuff like this, yet I still prefer that barrier from time to time, and it could be really helpful. For the stats, you should search for Shadow Imbuement, Poison Imbuement, Armor, Maximum Life, or Chill Imbuement, which suits you better. I'm moving to the amulet here, and it has the aspect of the Umbra, which is really helpful now, especially after the patch, when we should definitely use it. The main stat here is energy cost reduction, which is really helpful, the ranks to the melee passive, which gives us a lot of damage, and damage with skills that swap to new weapons, which is pretty good. Just try to search a few nice damage stats here, and this is mostly it. The first ring has the aspect of the expectant, together with critical chance, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and critical strike damage with imbued skills. That's pretty much everything that we need here, so try to aim for something like this. My second ring is a little worse, and I'm using the aspect of corruption on it. It has vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, and critical strike chance, yet imbued skill damage is not really good. Perfectly, you should change it to critical strike damage with imbued skills, which is definitely better. Yet we are moving here to showcasing the sword. It has the aspect of the rapid, which should give us more attack speed to stack our combo points faster. And the stats on it are pretty simple. It's mostly dexterity, vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, and core skill damage or any other kind of damage stat, which should be damage to the distant targets, critical strike damage with imbued skills and stuff like this. Any of it will work. Try to experiment with this to find a better option for yourself. The second melee weapon is Condemnation, which is pretty good. It gives us a lot of core skill damage together with combo points that we are using. It also gives a really nice attack speed, which should be really helpful when we trying to dodge a lot of stuff in higher tiers dungeon. So that's pretty much it. That was mostly items for now, and the specialization here is combo points. It's pretty much the only option that currently work good enough for both range and melee builds in higher tiers. So it's pretty much mandatory right now. Even after general nerfs, Penetrating Shot is a pretty viable build that could be pretty strong in the Season 1. Try it out! For more Diablo content, subscribe to the channel and like this video. See you next time!